I'm here with Miguel at the International SAP Utilities Conference in Milan. Miguel, thanks for taking the time to have a chat.
Thank you.
Miguel, in your opening keynote of the Utilities Conference this morning, you mentioned the intelligent enterprise. Mm-hmm. What do you mean by an intelligent enterprise?
Yeah, well, a few things, right? I would say. It's really about fundamental intelligent enterprise capabilities that need to be further developed. This has to do with the execution capability, but of course now it will become a much more autonomous execution capability. Mm-hmm. It has to do with the capability of seeing the business, seeing this in a retrospective way, but also to the future, right? A full visibility end-to-end of the business. And then also another capability fundamental if we want to really qualify an enterprise as an intelligent enterprise, which has to do with the capability to adapt and to change, right? So those are three fundamental ingredients. And then on top of that, I would say that doing this in a collaborative way, so that is the other dimension that is quite important, mm-hmm. because you need to collaborate, right? Not only with your customers and with your partners, but also with the other companies, right? On a B2B basis, leveraging B2B platform, for example. And then finally, you want to sense, right? You want to sense what exactly, how well you are doing in front of your main stakeholders, in front of your customers, your employees, your vendors even. And then for that, you need to manage end-to-end the experience that you are providing as an enterprise. And if you are able to address these dimensions, then you are becoming and qualifying as an intelligent enterprise.
Now, in your keynote this morning, which was live streamed, and we'll provide the link so people can see the whole thing, you took it to the level whereby, and you mentioned that there's a lot of buzzwords in there and it's all nice slides, but you gave some very concrete examples yes. of what it means for reality in the real world. And one of the things I was quite interested when you called out was that it was about the way we collaborate. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And you gave some different examples.
Yes.
So could you elaborate on some of those?
Yeah, I mean, there are multiple ways of collaborating, right? One simple one that I gave in that moment was the collaboration possibility between the utilities and their final customers and consumers, right? You can nowadays leverage the chatbot technology that we have in SAP. You can put that in the context of a customer service process. Yep. You can anticipate particular events that you are going to have with that customer. For example, in relation to a high bill that is about to receive, proactively approach that customer and inform him that there is a high bill that is coming, and eventually he wants to take advantage of different payment alternatives that utility will be able to provide him. So that is for me one element of collaboration that we would be able to explore in the context of this evolution to the intelligent enterprise. Another one that I think is very, very important is when you do this on a business-to-business collaboration network. Mm-hmm. So SAP has been investing heavily on putting forward collaboration networks to the market. Okay. We have collaboration networks that provide support in procurement processes for collaboration between companies and vendors, manufacturers. We have networks that provide ways for companies to leverage contingent workforce. They can grab the talent from the market as you need it, okay. Right? And then finally, the one that I brought to my keynote presentation is the possibility to collaborate around assets, and that is for me a very interesting one. We, in a moment of time, we called it even the Facebook of assets, this network collaboration, and that stands for the fact that we were sharing real-time information about the asset condition and the asset performance with the equipment vendors or manufacturers, also with the service providers to that equipment, so that each one of them collaborating on top of that platform, they could come up with the recommendations on how to improve the performance of that asset. So those are fundamental and I think very interesting ways that we can provide collaboration opportunities for the intelligent enterprise.
But it's fascinating to see the way things like chatbots, and I remember at one of the conferences, I think 3 years ago, you were showing off an Alexa skill, so mm-hmm. voice assistants and whatever. So just it's fascinating to see the way the new technologies are coming into when we say collaborate, but yes. What does that mean in the real world, and how do you make it work? Yes. So to manage the expectations of the customers. Now, another thing in the IT world I grew up in, you'd go to put out a new system, and it was like, oh well, we'll take this and then we'll customize the hell out of it. You made a very interesting comment this morning, was that look at all of the standardized approach you're taking. So 80%, if you like, I'm saying my words, off the shelf. Customize the 20% that gives you the differentiation. Do you see that sticking with utilities these days?
I would say in some cases yes, in some cases not, but definitely I think that people understand that that is the future. We see now new projects starting with SAP solutions where there are strong and strict mandates from even executive boards to avoid customization,
stop
to avoid changes.
Everything.
Yes, because everyone knows that this comes at a high cost, right? That cost is even a cost for the organization. It's a cost, the overall maintenance cost, and then obviously also the possibility for you to evolve in the future. The more you customize, the more you are limited into that evolution capabilities. Therefore, I would say that this idea of moving to a more standardized type of approach, leveraging cloud-based solutions, definitely will allow utilities to address this 80% that are standardized and then focus on exactly their creative energy, on differentiation, on developing the competitive focus that would allow them to, let's say, be competitive in their market space.
And if 80% of a lot of the systems out there in the utility industry are, let's say, standardized, then surely the communication between them gets easier as well, as opposed to everyone trying to write their own APIs and bridges and whatever.
Absolutely, and you would be moving to a cloud paradigm. Once you are moving to a cloud paradigm, you are coming to a much more standardized type of approach, and therefore that collaboration element is much easier to implement.
Well, we heard in one of the following keynotes from Inel and their roadmap for basically moving everything to the public cloud.
Yes, absolutely, right. And you could not imagine that happening just a few years ago, right?
In my previous role with Intel, I was out selling cloud, and a lot of people told me, Kev, we'll never go to the cloud. Yes. You don't understand.
Yes.
But economics and technology.
Yes, it's a combination of things that indeed led many companies to change their perspective. And that started, by the way, with, let's say, less core type of functions, right? Support functions.
Agreed.
HR, procurement, whatsoever. And there, SAP has made a tremendous way in that in deployment and adoption of cloud solutions there. Now we are obviously in the second wave.
You see the core systems,
yes,
if you like,
absolutely.
Moving to the public infrastructure.
The core business systems.
And when we say public, it's not that everybody has access, it's just the way it's set up. But it's fascinating to see.
Yes, absolutely.
Now, I have the privilege of doing the technology keynote tomorrow, and I'll be talking about some of the technologies. You mentioned as well in the Intelligent Enterprise, there was a huge amount of enabling technologies.
Yeah.
You see so many new technologies, new innovative things. If I was to ask you, what's the coolest thing you've seen recently?
There are many, right? I mean, I would say obviously we have a technology in SAP, it's so-called Copilot, which is a digital assistant for people to execute business processes in the company.
Okay.
So if you look about the traditional ERP processes and others, so there is a digital assistant now that is becoming available that allow people to execute on the next steps of their process, right? In an interactive way. So they guide people through the entire process end to end. So this is amazing, I think, right? That Copilot also includes voice recognition. And this means that you don't always need to type, you just talk to it, right? And you talk to it through whatever, for example, a procurement process. So that is quite amazing for sure. Then the other thing that I like very much is when there are concrete applications of machine learning algorithms. I mentioned this example in my keynote that I like very much, which is if you have a solution like custom profitability analysis, you don't need anymore to spend hours exploring the data trying to find out what are the factors that are determining the margin that you have with segments of customers. Because with machine learning, and this is what we are making available in that solution, they are already suggesting what are the fundamental factors that are influencing margin going up or going down. So all the time that you take analyzing the data and taking your own conclusions, this can be saved with machine learning algorithms. I also find that example as a very interesting one.
It is a fascinating time.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Kevin. Thank you very much.